Mr. Mayor, Assembly Council.
All right, thanks.
Jen on the phone.
No, and Jenna
Jen.
Wellstein on the phone.
Hello.
So first thing up is Denali Dispensaries. And Mandy, you want to go through the license?
Yep. So Denali Dispensaries, the operating plan generally met all requirements for Title 10. There were no taxes, fees, or fines found due by any of the licensees or affiliates. I did see in the diagram, it appeared that there might not be cameras in the basement area, and if that's part of your licensed premises, they'll require them to have camera coverage. So I didn't see it, but just as a heads up, that may be something we add.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. And
Okay, so the applicant Bradley Bartlett of Denali Dispensaries is applying for a special land use permit for marijuana retail sales establishment at 225 East Fifth Avenue. The proposed facility in the B2B, that's the Intermediate Central Business District. They're showing 4,000 square feet of gross floor area with hours Monday through Saturday between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. The use is consistent with the downtown comp plan. Plans submitted to the planning department don't show any major alterations to the building facade or structure that would make it dissimilar in character, scale, or size when compared to the surrounding structures. The planning department recommends approval of special land use permit subject to the conditions stated in the staff report. The planning department mailed 359 public hearing notices and 2 responses were received from the public opposed to the granting of the special land use permit because of the use intensity and a perceived increase in trespassing. The Downtown Community Council, they sent in their letter that they normally do with these applications. I'm happy to answer any of the questions if we have any.
all right, thanks. Not here. Good stuff. We have a quorum. We need a quorum.
You don't need a quorum. Just you and me, my friend.
That's okay. Got anything here, Dick?
No. I expect we're gonna have people complaining about, we always have this group downtown that does one or the other. But given the fact that I've got more in my assembly district than they need to have.
Well, they could have commented, but they would have got the flyers.
We had
It's odd.
two people you said that.
Two people, yes.
But just the overall, or were they saying they're gonna attract vagrants, or what's their?
Let's see here. Let me find that section real quick and take a look at it. The one stated there is one next door, and then you have the other comment. Let's see here. Yeah, basically that there's a vagrant problem down there, and they just felt that this might attract more, which isn't anything that's been approved.
I don't have any problem with this one.
I got a few comments on it, just going through it. One is on page 3, which I think, Sean, as your report says the site is 4,000 square feet. On page 20, where they show the site plan, it shows the lot at 6,500 square feet. For the record, Amina Bosky's joined us.
She got gas now?
I do have gas. I almost didn't make it.
So John, we use what the applicant puts down on the application. So if you go to page 2 of 135 in the application, and they state that the facility licensed premise is 4,000 square feet. You're correct, the lot size is 6,500. That might have been on the site information that I put in the facility size instead of the lot 10 size.
Is that important? Or is it just
It's just a typographical error. We have, the most important thing is the facility license for 4,000 square feet of marijuana retail.
I just don't want to mess them up if something comes to it.
Correct.
You know, if there's changes in your facility at a certain level, you have to
Right.
come, so I hate to have someone come and say, hey, all of a sudden, your site's.
Right.
So
We want it right,
try to
too.
get these things right.
Yeah. And we,
Then,
go ahead.
well, I don't know, kind of an odd thing. Downtown Community Council won't do MOUs, but in fact, they did sort of write a MOU. They just don't call it that.
Yeah, I guess.
Although you wrote an MOU, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't approve it. That's what
Yeah.
it was. That's, I'd like to, I guess we don't have any say in their procedures, but it'd be nice if they did what they're.
We went to a couple of their meetings, the community council.
Yeah. We tried to get on their agenda, but they, you know, we tried calling a bunch of times and no response, and showed up, and it's kind of difficult for us to really talk with them and see how they felt, but tried our best, I think so.
It's good.
Once you open up down there, you're part of the community. You keep going to those, and they should let you become a member.
We love to do
Wrote the
that.
bylaws, is if you've got a business in that area, you live in that area, you become a member of the community council. So next time, show up, and if you've got a business, they can't shut you down.
Right, right. Appreciate that info.
Another thing is there's a letter in here from Identity Inc., which I think is because we had a previous case and we were trying to decide what are their
Yeah.
dealings. So is that?
I put that in there just informational
11:50.
to refresh the Assembly's, what we came up with for a definition.
Because it's within the 500 feet.
It is
but it's
within
not
that, but
relevant.
it's not relevant.
Okay, so that's just. Did they have comments on this?
They did not comment.
We sent them an email about, right, Sean emailed us, and I emailed them right after, and it's been since then, and they haven't had any response, and that was just the email address I found on their website.
You know, just a comment, and this is probably not relevant to anything, but it was pretty useful, is if you look on page 9, and you go through, and I think this is the report, is it compatible with land use plan and stuff like that? Is the use compatible? When we think of use, we think of the land use and retail being there, and your write-up was about use of marijuana.
Oh,
It's a little bit term,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was fine. Then there's, I don't think this is part, but we need to see it, but a lot of your things you say, anyone in there will be over 21 years of age.
Most
It's a
definitely.
cruel world to be 21 then. But
I
pretty
guess
consistently,
21 and
anyone
over,
21
yeah.
can't go.
Right.
So I think in one place you said 21 or over, and everywhere else you said over 21.
oh, okay.
So maybe that's your niche, no 21 year olds. And then page 34, and I think this was frequent, what you said. You said, all visitors will have their state IDs copied and retained for 1 year. And that led to a couple questions. And it was addressed elsewhere, but it's not just state ID, you use a passport, you use
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
other things. But your operating plan is a state ID. And then the fact that you're copying and keeping the names, is that required?
In the, that'd be in the restricted access, that's not like someone coming to the store to go to the store, that'd be if it's maybe a different retailer or whatever, you know, whoever, it's in the restricted access area.
Okay.
For the private area.
Right.
Okay. All this, yeah, it wasn't crystal clear, the phrasing.
I guess that means that tour that we did, I'm gonna blow the record. Right? They took a copy of my ID.
Frequent flyer. Once.
I'm not gonna fly that high, I'm telling you right now.
I mean, maybe there's other Amy's out there, they're sharing your ID.
Oh, they're gonna give it to the NSA or something.
So
Big brother.
Then the last point I had is, you know, if you look at page 115 through 132, you've got 19 pages of calls for service at this place when it was a bar. 19 pages, that's the most we've seen, page and a half, maybe. So Kodiak Bar would be.
It has reputation.
Yeah.
I don't like the other one. The other one is fine.
Yeah.
So,
You know, John, it's interesting, yeah, we include these, but I've always kind of thought, you know, this is all for a past use.
yeah.
And it really has no relevance to the use going in there. You see these with the alcohol cases too. So you gotta kind of read into them that this was all previous.
Well, I understand that. I can't imagine you guys doing anything but way, way better. I read the comments by the two
Yeah, you
people
couldn't get no
saying-
worse than that, I can tell you that.
And having something in there is, I think, typically better than having a vacant building. So you've gone from a horrible bar to a vacant building and now something.
We definitely want to turn it around and, you know, run an upfront business there and help the community and whatever, hopefully make a couple dollars too, doing it.
So we have a work session on liquor laws tomorrow. We have to remember these 19 pages. We talked about that. That shouldn't happen. It's kind of bad. So anyway, that's all I had on this. So maybe do you have?
No, I didn't see anything that really sparked my interest that I thought would be negative. I can't think of any preschools that are, well, there's one preschool over in that area that's way down the road.
Yeah, it's communities down the road.
So these guys have got to be with it outside of the 1,000 foot.
They are.
Yeah. Because the only thing that we had in this particular area, and I think yours is the establishment I drove by the other day. You guys have already done a whole bunch of work to it. haven't you?
No, we're right,
No,
we're
right
we're right
next
next to the place at Centauri and.
Okay, that's probably the one
Place,
I'm
we're right
thinking of.
next door.
Okay. Well, see, downtown's getting the green mile. Maybe
Well,
we
maybe
have
we're
it.
gonna have a price war between the two stores.
That's it. That's it. No, I think especially when we're talking about the previous calls for service, if anything else, this is, I can't anticipate you guys will have anything like this at all.
You sure hope not.
And so when you come back for a renewal or anything like that, I mean, honestly, what I expect you'll be able to show is an improvement in this area. So I think that just bolsters their case, frankly, because people.
I agree.
Thank you.
So we recommend.
Move approval of assembly.
Any opposition? Okay. So if you haven't been through this before, this committee meeting, we've looked at it, we're discussing here obviously.
Right.
On Tuesday, it'll come in front of us, it'll be a public hearing. And I'll state that this committee recommended approval, but there's 11 of us that took a vote. So it'd be nice if you're there.
We'll be there. It's a long time coming. We've been waiting and waiting in line.
Okay, good.
You know.
Do you own the building or who?
Actually, I'm buying the building from the owner.
Okay.
You know,
That's what I
I'm
made
not
sure it wasn't
bank
the
or
old
anything,
owner.
but I've had it for almost a year now with nothing. It's just a hole of bleeding money right now, but I'm hoping to turn that around and as soon as we get done, we're gonna redo the face and inside the building and turn it into a class act.
And the city got back taxes.
Well, I'm paying off the back taxes. That's part of the deal with that bought it. I've been personally paying off the back taxes on that building. I have another payment coming up. Whatever, they were gonna lose the building, the person I bought it from for taxes. I don't know how people get away without paying their taxes. I have to pay mine, but I've been paying their back taxes. It was like 3 years and it was 30,000. I've already paid now this year's going on, but I put like 10,000 or 11,000 last year. I had another payment coming up like next month. I can finally get these taxes paid off. And that was from the previous owner. That was the baggage that came with the building for me to buy it. They said they were going to lose the building, so they were happy to sell it to me. And I pride myself on having A1 credit, paying my bills on time. So I'm working on paying the taxes off. And I don't know about downtown, but our taxes out in Chugiak at the airport, I had one building that went up $700,000 in 1 year, last year. I had to call the assessment guy, he marks my taxes, they're $18,000. I went from $400,000 building to $1.16 million in 1 year. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen downtown because it's pretty heavy taxes. But we will pay the taxes off on that building.
That's great, thank you. We'll spend it wisely.
Thank you.
Come to the Sunday meeting on Tuesday, okay, 'cause there's only a few of us here.
Right.
We have a body of 11, just in case somebody has a question. So. Shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Tell them hi for me if you're gonna go down this weekend.
Oh, I will. Matter of fact,
I know all of them.
I know them all too, and that's why I knew you knew them because police know them.
It's a small group of people.
It is. We've been around a while.
Okay, so we're moving on, item B.
Now, the reason we're doing this is because marijuana renewals have to be done in AR, not in AM. So we found that problem we had, and this corrects it. Just in the future, all marijuana renewals will be done on the AR, because that's what the clerk requires, not an AM.
So effectively what this does is this just gives the clerk's office direction.
What it does, it just cleans up this with the few that we've got now that went through the last meeting, because they were done on AMs, it should have been done on ARs.
Got it.
And we don't need to bring people back in, it's our fault, not theirs.
Agreed.
So,
What is effectively the difference between an AM and an AR?
One of
I'd like to help.
Gene.
An assembly resolution actually performs an action that is either respond to orders of action or take some official position and aims and accepting what is presented to you. Now, Have we taken any other action?
AR is formal action of the assembly.
An AM is,
A is often used as supporting justification for that's the most common use of amendment. But in some instances, the memorandum is also needed for assembly approval. Not in this case. There's one sentence that says all assembly determinations on application should be by resolution. It's the room to adopt another prescribed.
So it just means, John, in the future, all will come through on ARs, not AMs.
Yeah, it looks simple enough, I don't.
It just cleans it up.
Stumbled a bit.
And I don't want to tell people they've got to come back and sit through a meeting. So,
So do you want to send this with a recommendation or?
I'd say, right, move to approve it.
Okay, no opposition? Okay. Good. So then we have,
an unnumbered AR for Amy and myself. The single sheet done.
Excuse me, was that a vote on looking?
okay, so moving on to 2C, and that is this, is it still a draft really, or?
Oh, it's being sent through PACE.
Yeah, I think I just put draft on
You
it
already
and
put it on there?
emailing it and sending it out, so I'm gonna try and keep that until it actually goes through.
It was submitted for the agenda.
Yeah.
This goes back to the issue.
You wanna talk on it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
This goes back to the issue we talked about this other meeting, that renewals need to be brought to us for public hearing. We told the public when we originally did the marijuana that each one on their first renewal would come in front of us for a public hearing. And we got lost along the way, so this just takes it back to what we promised the public. So.
I think this goes back to like the conversation, and I guess I maybe misunderstood, but I thought as we were gonna have these groups of renewals come through, I thought we were gonna have like 10 at a time, and we would just send it for a public hearing, because we said we were going to the public for the whole first year we were doing this. And so when they ended up on the consent agenda, I personally was thrown through a loop, because that was not my understanding of what was gonna happen. And I know multiple assembly meetings, multiple committee meetings, we kept telling people, if you have a problem, you can come and talk to us. We will have a public hearing. And then we didn't. And so I think that's a major failure on the assembly's part. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, frankly, I think especially if you group them together, I think it's gonna be like a lot of other items, whether it's, you know, selling property or whatever it is we do. We have a lot of people that never come and testify on 85% of the assembly's docket. But I think because we spent such a lot of time when we were drafting the laws, telling people that they would have a chance to weigh in if they had a problem, I think we just have to do that. I think it's crucial for the first year.
This is only the first renewal. It's not gonna be second or third or anything else, just your first renewal. Because we did tell the public, I remember us in room 115, downstairs 155, telling the public time after time, you'll have a chance when it comes to renewal to talk about it. And we can't just say, hey, we forgot about it and we changed it. We need to go forward. So that's the reason we're bringing it forward to the assembly.
Any thoughts, Amanda?
So I just wanted to share when some from the sort of internal group that worked on the licensing ordinance, we had the conversation of the ability to send the renewals for public hearing, and the conversation was they would go before the body as a resolution so that the body can set it for public hearing, but that they all weren't automatically set for public hearing. The conversations over and over again in these meetings was to allow the assembly to have maximum control to address problem operators, but also to sort of support this new emerging industry and to not boggle down non-problem operators with sort of this other extra requirements. And so the assembly always had maximum control if it was brought to their attention that an operator was creating challenges within the community, that one would come before the assembly and the assembly could make the motion and set it for public hearing to address that specific one, which would maybe bring a little bit more sort of oomph to addressing a problem operator instead of everything just going before the body for public hearing.
And unfortunately, that didn't have the privilege of sitting with us the last time this committee debated it, because we went through this for an hour, I think, 45 minutes maybe, just talking about how we were going to handle renewals. And it goes back to, there may have been this smaller internal working group, which even though I was on the marijuana committee, I wasn't part of it. But I was on the marijuana committee and I was at every single meeting. And I remember telling the public, not just me, Dick, Ernie, I think Pete was there. We were all there saying the same thing. Listen, we know this is new. There's things we don't know yet. And that's why when we had these discussions with this committee before, and it's probably been only a couple months, I can't remember how long it's been. I meant to go back and re-listen to it, and I just didn't have time. But we were talking about how do you deal with a large group of renewals? You know, because if we have a whole bunch coming through, and I thought it was, personally, I think it's a little excessive to do every single one. But I thought, you know, if you had 50, you could group them as item 14A, there's 10, 14B, there's 10. So if you have a specific issue with one, you could bifurcate it and deal with the others and then deal with that one. But this is really just an attempt to fulfill the promise we made to the public. It wasn't something maybe that happened in a smaller working group. It was, you know, I mean, I remember not just committee meetings, but open assembly meetings, telling when people came to testify against first licenses being issued. The chair making comments, you can come back, take note of what happened and come back and you can tell us next year, because they will come up and give you half a chance. So it's that balance of how do you deal with the expectation of the public that we gave them and make it as easy as we can. Because I honestly, and Dick and I were talking about this offline, and I think it might take an extra 3 minutes, because I don't think generally anybody can show up to testify. If you have a problem operator, but that's when you want to hear it, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that will run into me in the grocery store and they have no idea even how to contact the assembly. But, you know, if they hear or see in the paper, okay, this license is coming up for renewal, then they'll show up to the meeting. So I'm just trying to find an easy balance to make it as easy for people as possible, but to also kind of feel like we fulfilled those expectations we kind of set for the public. And I don't know if this is the easiest way to do it, but that's what I have in my mind. Like, okay, you have a group of a few, just, you know, like we would anything else, you introduce it, and then 2 weeks later you have a public hearing, and then, you know, you deal with it. Just my thoughts.
Francis?
Amanda, do you happen to know what the state license renewal public notification requirements are when marijuana license applies for renewal with the state? Does the state require notification of the local community council?
I don't know right now the state's requirements. I do know that Mandy from the local.
I've been reading some state regulation with the anxiety, such that they do require notification to the local government, which is about the community council.
So same as alcohol, they send notification to the community council. So the community councils receive the state license renewal notification.
And they also receive the same notice from local government.
From the muni. So the community council is getting it twice, which is not a public hearing or a, you know, like the planning department for our rezone and certain entitlements sends an actual mailer out for new applications. But the community council is getting notice twice.
Dick?
But the state doesn't enforce local zoning laws. That's our responsibility on the assembly. So I don't think it's going to take that much time. There's many times I read something through for public hearing. There's no one there to testify that we close it down. We don't have that many licenses. It's not going to really tie this assembly up, John. This is just keeping our promise to the public.
Listening to Mr. Demowski's statement about it unifying, grouping the licenses together in one public hearing, I wanted to draw your attention to the document on page 3. There's some language that I think maybe we should change for this section. It was only given in zone section 1 and 9, 18 to 20 at the end. It says being renewed for the first time should be set for a public hearing for each license renewal application. And I guess you could read that to me, a public hearing for each license. And maybe you'll find the public hearing for the crew. And so we should maybe just delete for each license renewal application that last phrase. So that we can have one public hearing for the crew unless there's a motion to hold one problem licensee and have a separate public hearing. That's what you are trying to say.
Are you doing
right?
Yeah, Dick says he's okay with that too. I think that's exactly what we want, because we want it to be as easy as we
We can
can,
make that change.
not only for the clerk's office, in scheduling them all, but for, the assembly and the applicants, because I think, and I think it's only because this is a brand new industry. We've delved into something that half of the community wasn't comfortable with, and so we tried to give our assurances the best we could. And this was one of the things that we really hung our hat on.
Well, we've only had one licensee we've had a problem with so far. And she's been pretty responsive.
I think so.
So I have a question, and I understand this, and I think it's important to keep the public trust, and I think we're erring on that side, which is good, but the routine that we set in April, are you comfortable with that as a good routine? It's just that we had promised public hearings, so if we had not done that, then the routine that is set now, you would be comfortable with.
I think what you mean is that it can go on the consent agenda. Is that what you mean?
Well, partly, if a community council sends it, they'll be noticed, and if a community council sends in a request for public hearing to get it, but that process,
Oh, yeah.
you're comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that too, but it's just that first application. And I guess I probably wouldn't be so stuck on this, but I remember sitting there
Right.
looking
First
at.
renewal.
Yeah, that's what I mean, first renewal. So that's the thing, and I think going on, and this is what we talked about at one of our community meetings too, going on in the future, 2 years, 5 years down the road, the expectation is they'll just be on the consent agenda unless you kind of have a problem operator or one that needs a little more scrutiny. Then I think you could bifurcate it and separate it. But like I said, this is really a process thing, and I wasn't convinced we necessarily needed a resolution to get it done. I thought the chair could just do it, but I think because there's some inconsistencies, I think it's the cleanest way to do it.
And then is your sense, the promise for the public hearing on renewals was made as the
Throughout.
rules were being written?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Throughout, and when we adopted them at public hearings, throughout. That's my recollection. What's your recollection?
At the Federation meeting, I met with all the heads of the community councils and told them, if you have a problem, come renewal, you can come testify on it. We told the public that.
We're saying
And-
now. I mean, they
And
could,
I'd rather have it done this way rather than worry about the chairman, because chairmans come and go.
And I think this just cleans it up and makes it clear that we intend to just do this first time, be able to slot them. But I like Dean's idea of changing this because I don't want one separate hearing for every single license. I think Mandy is a student, if she just group them together, she has 10 of them at once.
so this is effective through 2020, is that why 2020?
Yeah. We have 2020.
2019, 28, through the end of 2018, okay, or is it?
I think we have 2020 on there, right?
Yeah.
Look online, like,
Not forever,
not forever.
through the end of 2018?
No, because this will deal with most of the majority of them. It's a new industry. We'll see how it does. Want to give them a chance to prove themselves. Because there's some people have a lot of fear of marijuana, some don't. We're trying to take it all into consideration.
So is this, so does this doesn't really go into code, it's just kind of states, this is our policy for operating, right? So this is like a assembly policy now.
Yeah, essentially a resolution, and I think what this will do more than anything is it gives the clerk's office direction on how to schedule marijuana license renewals.
Because they don't write their own. They look to us to give them direction, so that's what we're doing in this case.
And then for public hearing, the notice is just, it's on the agenda. So community councils would know through the normal routine, this goes on the agenda, but there's no mailings or any other, does it go, I mean, send in the newspaper?
Well, a lot of
How's that
times,
work?
yeah, a lot of
We
times.
can't afford the newspaper.
No, it just
So they're
depends.
going bankrupt.
Like, I'm thinking of my local papers out in Eagle River. A lot of times, if there's anything that has to do with our community, they'll say, okay, this is coming up on the assembly's agenda.
And the federation itself sends notice to committee council.
Will this work? So you can keep track of, you know, the first renewal, you just have a checkbox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
figure out a way, yeah.
Will this drive you crazy to have another public hearing in a year?
We're good with whatever you guys are good with.
I think they're gonna show up and say, do you remember those 19 pages?
Yeah.
We don't have
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, so what do you want to do with this? You want to
Recommend approvals of assembly.
it. I agree. You might be outvoted. I don't know. How do you feel about it, John? You haven't said much.
What are you feeling, John?
I think it's important to maintain the public trust, and I know in the, and that's very fragile right now. And in my time dealing with these, I know we were saying have public hearings ongoing, but it wasn't really that many times. It wasn't here when we wrote the rules, and we're saying that as we write the rules, this will be the case. So I think this is a hassle, and I think I would rather stick with the normal routine, but I do understand your point, and I think that's very important. So I guess my only pushback is really through 2020. Can we just do it through 2018 or something? I mean, 4 years from now, people won't remember.
So we're in 2017 now. We're almost through the end of the year. 2018 would get us through the end of next year.
And would capture every single one that's active now, and was active under the old rules, because we have the new rules since April, right, that say there won't be a public hearing, so hopefully we didn't tell anyone you get that first crack at it, because that wasn't the rule. Francis?
John, it's possible that some of the special land use permits for marijuana and licenses that are approved by the assembly may not be open yet, because I think you guys are in a position of renewing licenses for businesses that haven't opened, because sometimes it's taken them a little bit more time. No?
We're only renewing licenses for
Oh, that's
facilities
right.
that have them in hand.
That's right. No, so what I said is an error. Yeah, that's not right.
So I don't know, is that optional? I'm not dropping my sword over it.
I
It seemed
would-
like 2020.
I would love to
We can
have.
live with 2020? We can live with 2020?
I could probably live with it. 2018 feels better though.
I just want it to pass because I think, you know, and so to me, I mean, I want to have unanimous consensus. So I don't know what that means.
Okay, so we had a motion to recommend approval in a second, and no opposition. Okay, well, I think it's a drag, but I think we have to do it. I have one thing, we're almost, I guess we're kind of done, but there was the, we have this one that, we have those three that were lingering out there. We had three that were lingering, but the state hadn't approved them, so we were gonna do something really quick to protect them, but they got their approval, and that's not important. And that's still on our agenda. We're just gonna postpone it
I
indefinitely,
think,
or what do we do?
So I think it still is a good AO in that it is a potential problem for any future renewal years. So there was an issue where there was 3 licenses that they had submitted timely renewals to both us and the state, but we hadn't received the deemed completed renewal notice from the state yet. And so in order to prevent these facilities from having to shut down because it was the process of the state and us getting all of our stuff together and it was no fault of theirs, this allowed them to continue operating until the process had completed instead of faulting them for the process taking longer. So I think it's a good thing to keep because it's a potential problem every year.
And I think that's the last item on the regular agenda. I don't remember the number. Okay. Anything else? Deep?
I think that, like Ian said, the problem now might be a problem for future renewals, but I think there's resolution to that, and it's a code amendment status of the renewal application is we've received it, but it's not deemed complete until we actually received a copy of the state renewal application, also what the state has deemed the state application complete. And that's where the delay is. I think if we have a code change that says we can deem the application complete without waiting for the state to deem theirs complete, then we could go ahead and proceed. And we would then be holding them past that July 31 or July 1st deadline. So anyways, I think we can fix it for next year's renewal cycle comes up with the code and everything. And we would probably have anything similar houses with the code amendments, somewhere before next year's renewal cycle comes.
Well, now, so if that's the case, I don't think I brought a copy of that with me, but, and I recommended a small word change, but maybe we should not do that. Wait until there's a subtle change to do.
The 111.
Is that what it is? Maybe I do. Oh, you have it here. Okay, so do you want? I mean, should we do this and then do the code change? Skip this and wait for the code change.
If I think we shouldn't skip this. This applies to coronavirus. I don't think we need to wait for a code change. This applies to some applications first. It's all right.
Is it relevant? Oh, so there were 3 that did get the approval. But there
Yeah,
may
we
be more.
still have one that,
Okay.
2 of them we got.
Okay, good.
I had a question if I can ask. I don't know if anybody knows. I don't see anybody from code enforcement here, but do you know, Art Gerbery, there was a complaint because they had a temporary sign with a big old marijuana leaf on it. Was there a citation issue? There was.
Take it down.
Yes.
Is it like, what's the fine for that?
I can't say for certain.
$300. Is that Jana?
Yeah, it's me.
Jana, are you representing them?
Well, it's better than I am now, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you're probably gonna make a boatload. I'm just kidding, I'm joking, I'm totally joking. But, so the fine is $300,
That's true.
okay, and has it been paid?
The problem is with that issue, and I'm sure you're going to see it later, and I talked to Michael Packard about this too, there was just some confusion because at first it didn't have the pot leaf. It was just a parking sign that said Arctic Gerbery parking because we wanted to make sure people weren't parking on the street. But then AMCO enforcement said, no, it's a business sign, and business signs have to be attached to your building, and so then he put the pot leaf on it to address the parking. So no, it hasn't been paid yet because we're trying to get some clarification on, whether that's an instructional sign, for parking, just parking in general, not with the pot leaf on it, but just can we have a parking sign?
Well, I remember you were here when we had this conversation, when we were doing the regulations, and there are, within Title 21, it's not allowable to have temporary signs, period.
Right, so temporary signs are different than parking signs. So yes.
Yeah, but this was like a sandwich board, Jana.
Yeah, I know, and it's got the pot leaf on it, but, so yes, but like, we do need clarification for like, how do you direct traffic for people? Like, how do you put you should be able to put a parking sign up. Most people can put a and it's in the code that you put a parking sign. That aside from the twist of having the pot leaf on it, that's a separate kind of issue. So.
Don't drink his water, Jana. I have faith in you. I have faith in you. He dances around the rules many times we've seen. So let me ask planning a question. So when we're talking about a permanent sign to indicate here is parking, right? Does planning, I'm assuming it's going to be a pole that has a specific dimension that's allowable within code, or is there any situation in which a sandwich board is considered a permanent parking sign? I'm getting your answer for you right now.
Thank you.
So the sandwich board as a temporary sign is just not allowed, right? But an instructional sign showing where to park, that's probably something that needs to be, considered. If it is an instructional sign for a marijuana business, it's not a temporary sign. This will be a posted sign, proper, conforming sign. It won't be a temporary sign. But will it be allowed under the the special rules that apply to, to marijuana for the muni and the state, I don't have an answer for that right now.
Did you have a?
It would have to pass traffic too, if it's in the clear vision triangle and all that.
So let's help get Janet a solution to this. Who is the best person for her to talk to?
She's working on it with Packard. Yeah.
I don't know that person.
Michael Packard, he's our companion in building safety. He's the person who issues sign permits. So it's going to go through a proper sign permit process. So we're in the process of investigating whether or not an instructional sign is allowed. But there will be no temporary sign, so that issue is squashed. And there'll be an instructional sign for parking. What happens to be a marijuana business, I don't have an answer for you right now. Jana and I spoke yesterday, was it Jana, or the day before? And she's going to follow up with Packard, yeah.
Okay. So I assume you're going to be able to have some sort of sign that's going to have to conform with Title 21. And
Yeah, it's kind of fleshed out.
yeah, I was going to say, my general rule of thumb, just, for what it's worth, I'm not an attorney, but I do play a pain in the butt sometimes. I would say no sandwich boards. Probably a good way to start. Unless the planning department explicitly gives you in writing something saying you can have a sandwich board, because then I'm sure we will have a robust discussion at this table.
Okay, thank you.
Francis, instructional signs, do they have a marijuana leaf on them or not?
Probably not.
I think that's a no, but I didn't come prepared.
We need to specify with this guy, because he's gonna play this game until he's out of business.
Well, I feel a little bit uncomfortable with sort of playing gotcha with this particular license, because this was the very first marijuana special land use permit ever approved. It was before we started instituting, for code change like 2 or 3 times regarding marijuana and specified things. We added conditions about temporary signs and all these things. This was prior to all that. And the biggest concern about this business, if we're talking about this individual business, was do they have sufficient parking? They were only showing like 5 parking spaces, and it met the code requirement for parking because it's a really small place. But we knew that when they opened up, there was going to be a deluge of customers. And remember the front page of the newspaper, all those people in line to buy there. So the concern was, what are we going to do if they're the first business open and there's only 5 parking spaces and they have 3 employees? Is there sufficient parking? And the assembly approved this guy with the parking they had, but the assembly encouraged them to sort of deal with the temporary situation of the parking. And he said, when we knew nothing about signs and these issues, was we will direct them. I'm going to rent this other lot. We're going to find ways to direct people to park elsewhere and walk to this. The issue is about parking, and this bit about a sign is not specifically to advertise this business, but it's to continue to deal with a parking situation and directing people to proper legal place to park. So it's an issue that will be worked out at the staff level.
I know Francis, he also said he's going to have his employees park across the street because he owns the house across the street. Because that was a question I had for him. You're really going to have your employees walk across 4 lanes of traffic? He said yes.
Well, there's not a lot. I mean, I stood out at the property. You may have too. There's not a ton of traffic across Arctic at that location. It just isn't.
I just want to be on the record and say nobody's playing gotcha, and this whole temporary sign issue, number 1, in Title 21, temporary signs have never been allowed. So, or they're not allowed since I've been on.
Get a permit. Sandwich signs, I think, are specifically called.
Downtown aren't typically.
They're allowed there, but I mean, you can have a temporary sign with a permit.
Yeah, but he didn't have a permit, number 1. And number 2, it's not like this happened a year ago. This was 2 weeks ago. So, again, I just want to give people the tools to be successful. And now that he has Jana, I think he can be successful if he follows the rules. And
If he listens to her.
yeah. So, I was just curious to see what the status of that was because I had heard about it. Thanks for answering those questions, Jana, and thanks for helping him.
Francis?
That's fine, I'll do my best.
Yeah, marijuana has special rules about signs, both at the state and municipal level. Whereas you can have a temporary sign for a regular business with a permit specific to marijuana, you're never allowed to have a temporary sign. I think that may, I'm making guesses here, but that may had something to do with like the liquor stores that do a lot of exterior advertisement. So marijuana has special rules about signs. These slight nuances or differences, put us into these situations where we have to, figure it out.
Good, thank you. Did you?
No.
Okay. Mandy?
I was just going to say the Marijuana Control Board meeting was also recently just about advertising, and they were discussing some of these things, like the marijuana leaf being part of the sign and all of this. So they're going to be working on some changes coming up. So this may be something that's being addressed already.
How quick would they have it?
They just got some direction from the board. Amber did, so it'll probably be.
Yeah, so Mandy, it won't be heard probably at all at the September hearing. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it. It'd be good if the community put in like a position, if they wanted to put in a position. I took Oregon's rules and I kind of tweaked them a little bit, but they're the most recent advertisement rules and they're the most encompassing, and they define things down to even like text messaging advertisement. But whatever the board adopts, it still will have to be signed by the lieutenant governor, and then 30 days after that, it would go into effect. So, I mean, theoretically, we probably won't have any real defined advertising rules until end of December. If even.
Right.
Yeah.
Jenna, can you send a copy of what you sent to AMCO board to the clerk's office?
Yep, I can do that right
Would
now.
appreciate it.
Lee?
Yeah, I was listening to this temporary discussion and thought it only myself useful. So Title 21, like Francis mentioned, Section 21 of 555 marijuana establishments that have specific standards, and for a retail establishment, subsection 4B, B4B2 says some should comply with state regulation in Chapter 2111. No temporary signs are permitted. That's specific to retail.